Why are you here?" he demanded, voice trembling between anger and grief. The two little girls looked up from the base of his wife's grave, their faces pale, thin, shivering beneath warm blankets. One of them whispered, "Because she said you come," and in that single sentence, the billionaire's entire world stopped. Ethan Cole had built an empire from steel and sweat, from a broken home to billion-dollar boardrooms. His name meant success, the kind that silences critics, but no one saw the loneliness beneath his wealth. Not even his wife, Claire, who'd been the only warmth in his cold. Mechanical world. When Claire died 3 years ago, everything that made him human went with her. He visited her grave only once, the day of the funeral. Since then, not a single flower. Not a single visit. Until today. It was early winter, gray skies, restless wind, and a loneliness that felt alive. Ethan stood among the marble headstones, his breath visible in the cold. He didn't know why he'd come back. Maybe guilt. Maybe exhaustion. Her tombstone was simple, just like she was, Claire Cole. She loved more than she was ever loved. He swallowed hard. The words cut deeper now than they did the day they were carved, and that's when he saw them. Two small figures, crouched near the grave, wrapped in tattered scarves, clutching a stuffed bear missing one eye. They couldn't have been older than 8. Twins, identical in every way, except one had a scar above her eyebrow. He froze. "What are you doing here?" They startled, wide-eyed but silent. The smaller one clutched the bear tighter. "I asked you a question," Ethan said, stepping closer. The girl with the scar whispered, "We're waiting for her." Ethan frowned. "For who?" The other girl pointed to the tombstone. "For Miss Claire." Ethan's chest tightened. "You knew my wife?" The girls nodded. "She used to come every week," said the smaller one softly. "She brought us food. She read to us. She said when she wasn't sick anymore, she'd take us home." The other added. Ethan's throat went dry. Claire had been volunteering at a women's shelter before she passed. He knew that. What he didn't know, what she never told him, was that she found 2 abandoned children living behind the shelter dumpsters. He looked at the girls, their cheeks hollow, hands trembling from the cold. "When was the last time you ate?" They glanced at each other. "Yesterday," the smaller one said. "Just some bread." He exhaled slowly, guilt rising like bile. His wife, the woman he once promised to protect, had been caring for these children behind his back. While he was too busy chasing profits, he took off his coat and wrapped it around both of them. "Come with me," he said quietly. The mansion felt colder than the cemetery. Marble floors, empty halls, a dining table meant for 20, now set for none. Ethan led them inside, unsure what he was doing. They looked around in awe, eyes tracing the crystal chandelier, the paintings, the warmth of the fire. The smaller one asked, "Did Miss Claire live here?" "Yes," Ethan said softly. "She said she didn't like big houses." The other murmured, "She said they made her feel lonely." Ethan stopped mid-step. That was something Claire used to say to him. Word for word, he turned. "What else did she tell you?" The girl hesitated, then whispered, "That you were kind once." Ethan's knees almost gave out. That night, he sat in his late wife's study, holding a photo of her, the same photo she'd framed beside their wedding vows. He remembered their last fight. She'd said, "You're building everything but a heart," and he'd said, "Hearts don't make profit." Now, years later, her words haunted him like ghosts in every empty room. In the guest bedroom, the twins slept soundly for the first time in days. Wrapped in clean blankets. Ethan couldn't sleep. He walked outside to the terrace, where Claire used to grow lily, and whispered into the night, "I failed you, Claire. You gave love away like air, and I sold mine for gold." A faint sound interrupted his guilt. Footsteps. He turned to see the older twin standing barefoot in his coat. "Why are you awake?" he asked gently. "I heard you talking," she said. "Miss Claire used to talk like that too. She said love doesn't die." It just changes where it lives. Tears blurred his vision. He knelt, hands trembling. She told you that? The girl nodded. She said she'd find a way to make sure we're never alone again. Ethan's heart cracked wide open. The next morning, his lawyer nearly dropped his coffee when Ethan walked into the office. I want everything changed. Ethan said firmly, Sir, your will rewrite it. The house, the company shares, everything I own. I want it split into a foundation. Her foundation. His lawyer blinked. What kind of foundation? Ethan's voice softened. The Claire Foundation for children without homes. Starting with 2 girls who already had one. They just didn't know it yet. A week later, they returned to the cemetery. The twins each carried a single white lily. Ethan watched as they placed the flowers gently at Claire's grave. She said Lily were her favorite, the smaller one. Whispered. Ethan smiled sadly. She used to say they were proof something pure could grow from dirt. They stood in silence for a while. Then one of the girls looked up at him and asked, Can we call you something? He blinked. What do you mean? She said you were the man who forgot how to smile. The smaller one said, But now you do. Ethan felt his throat tighten. What do you want to call me? Dad, they said together. The word hit him like a prayer he never deserved. He knelt, tears falling freely this time, and whispered, Then that's what I'll be. The Claire Foundation became one of the largest charitable organizations in the country. It didn't just feed or shelter children. It educated them, built futures, gave them hope. Ethan never remarried. He said once in an interview, My wife didn't leave me with a fortune. She left me with a purpose. The reporter asked, Do you still visit her grave? Ethan smiled. Every week. With my daughters, asterisk sometimes. The people we lose leave behind more than memories. They leave unfinished miracles. Claire's miracle came in the form of 2 homeless children and 1 broken man who found each other at the right grave. On the right day. Because love never really dies. It just waits. To be found again. Tell us in the comments. What part of this story touched your heart the most? Where are you watching from? Subscribe for more cinematic moral stories that remind us even the richest hearts can be poor until they learn to give again.